Welcome back, Egyptology lovers. Today we're going to discuss the third sculpture that I've carved. This is by far the most complicated one that I had to carve out. It had many waves and layers and ins and outs, which made it extremely difficult. But the execution in this particular piece is absolutely stunning. When you work on it, you begin to see how much work it actually takes compared to what it looks like. So this piece is actually a replica at the Metropolitan Museum. It is a plaque of a sculpture owl. This was during the late period, about 400 to 300 BC of the Egyptian period. It was usually a donation period, probably to a temple or to a royal family or to a prominent family, as possibly a practice piece by someone who's learning to sculpt. So the beauty of this, let me go through the details of this particular piece. It doesn't really have much of a background, but it does actually have a bit of detail on how it's designed. So this one had to be specifically thick. This particular piece here I could show you was quite thick, about 1 inch thick. It's basically resting upon to 3/4 inch plywood. And the mixing is the same. I'll put that in the video for you. I'll even put a link to the original piece at the Metropolitan. You can check that out. Now, this particular piece took some time. It was aggravating in a sense that it had many minute layers. As I discussed in the other videos, when you sculpt Egyptian art, the style is quite difficult in a sense that you need to be very detailed and extremely attentive, or else it doesn't look like it. A lot of people try to replicate Egyptian art, just carve it out and think, well, there's Egyptian art. But when you stare at it long enough, you begin to notice that it's not as unique. This came as close as I can to the original. You'll notice in the picture. So this has many layers. So what you do first is you carve it out. This actually had the nice little stud on the top there, which gave it that nice looking top piece, which I like. And this is original to what I was able to replicate. Not the original, but a replica of the original. So what you do is you design it first, you get the drawing of the owl, and then you carve out the top, the surrounding area, and try to find the thickest level, the highest level, which is the protruding level. As you can see, it's still got plaster on there. I like to keep it fresh, dry plaster. So from looking at this piece, the highest part was actually the nose. If you could see it, I'll turn it over here. You could see it like that. The nose was the highest part of the owl, right over there. And then the most difficult was actually carving out the interior, doing that curvature, which makes it so difficult to attain without chipping. I won't lie to you, that broke a few times and I had to replaster it. It wasn't easy. My plaster had to have the right mix in order to achieve that without breaking. But it broke, but that's okay. You piece it back together again. That's why it's plaster. So the first layer you would have is the top nose layer. Then the eyes would protrude out, even though it looks a little awkward when you look at it from the side, but it actually gives it that nice effect, that prominent glare that is so well known. And then the foreheads, you could see the forehead was actually part of it. What the beauty about the forehead is it follows the nose as well for the first level, and then it recedes down. And you don't see that in the flat image. You have to actually look at it. It recedes all the way down and it comes right down into the nose. And then you have the chins, very thick, rounded chins. And then a recess inside the eyelid area, right over here on both sides. And then the eye extrudes out. And then you have the head on the top area, which you have the folds of the head of the owl, which are very nice. These are folds, about 3 of them. And the artist put some lovely details. He just simply put a single wing, which is the folded wing of the owl. And then from there, he went about doing his wonderful detail, punching out the holes around the area and drawing those lovely feather-like motifs, even though this may not be authentic to an owl's appearance, but it gave it that nice artistic license to be able to do to create a little bit more of a visual appealing art. And this piece so I want to show you something else. So the carving here, when you get to those details that I talked about, when you approach this area over here, like right there, when you approach here, you could see how thin it is. It's probably just a couple of millimeters off from the surface. And that's the detail you need to get. That's what you need to aim when you're carving Egyptian art. You have to get to those details that are so fine that someone has to come in and stare right at it to notice it. And as I said in the other 2 videos, detail is everything. It's not just enough that you make the owl, but you need to give it the lining details. You can see the carving here on each individual one. The lines, even though they're not that when you get closer, not that really impressive, but from a distance, it gives it that impressive appearance. And there you go. That's the owl from a Metropolitan Museum. This is my third piece and by far my most difficult piece to make. I enjoyed working on it very much. Let me see if I can give you another angle from it here. As you can see the sun glaring at it. The sun is everything. When the Egyptians carved items, they always considered the light, how it would hit it, how it would affect it. And you could see it doesn't look like much from the side, but the second you turn it over, you get that nice, beautiful, lovely, delicate, gentle look of this owl. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching. Please stay tuned to my fourth statue.